Thank you.
boy. So in light of that, Robin, if you would take the notes on what happened, so that we can memorialize that.
Am I good to proceed?
Yes, please.
Okay, so as far as FY26, you know, a lot of this should not come as a surprise. We are starting to encounter, or have been encountering for, you know, at least the last few weeks, some issues around class size, as well as some of our special education sub-separate programs at the elementary level. That has resulted in myself, in Dr. Reese, spending a considerable amount of time at Varnum Brook to help with support in that building. And we have reached a point where we have had to take some action around addressing some of the staffing issues in the building. So we have posted 2 additional behavior techs in that building. Currently, there are 2, and they are not able to address the number of issues that arise over the course of the day. It's not even an argument, really. They definitely need to be doubled, in our estimation at this point. And we are also in the process of looking at adding potentially another administrator to the special education department. One of the issues that we're facing with special education now is the state, for all intents and purposes, has required that special education administrators chair meetings, which has created a situation for us, again, where we're getting close to 30% in special education, where our 3 special education admins are in meetings all day, making it extremely difficult for them to address issues in the district and in some ways do their job. Again, it's another unfunded mandate as far as I'm concerned, from the state. But in particular, that change has had a significant impact on Varnum Brook and the special education programs. We're in a situation where we have several relatively new teachers in those programs that need some support, as well as support for the students, and even some support for the administration as well. As you know, this is not something that, you know, essentially school leaders and in many cases even prospective teachers get in their schooling. So we want to make sure that we're providing the right amount of support, not just for the students, but for the staff in that building as well. And we are looking at moving one of our special education administrators into a role that she was in last year for the first quarter of the year, where she was very hands-on in the programs, and was assisting, again, the teachers and the students all day long, on instructional practices, on de-escalation techniques, and things of that nature. The issue is that if we move that individual back to that position, that opens up a situation where we do not have anyone supervising the middle school sub-separate programs, which are not as complicated or as needy as the elementary school programs, but also the person's ability to handle the out-of-district caseload, which is also fairly significant in the district, having to attend a lot of meetings, in some cases travel to those sites. So that would require us to backfill that position to make sure that we are in compliance and following, again, the IEPs, being able to attend the meetings, and so forth. So that's a situation we are in now, where we're looking to add 3 positions. I do not see this as a situation where this is an ad for the year. I see this as really a permanent situation, most likely, because, again, IEPs are binding legal documents at the federal and the state level. So we have to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can. And it's one of those things, again, where we're looking to bring students back into the district from private placements, where there's an increase in staff, and it's not always quickly realized how it's positively impacting our budget as we bring students in, because we have to develop those programs and really get to the point where families are seeing the programs within North Middlesex are strong enough so that we do not have to place students out. So it's not a quick turnaround, but it does show quickly and add to our staff. But over time, if we strengthen our programs, we will be able to bring more students back into the district, which will be a cost savings. So that's where we're at right now.
Okay, so short-term estimate on the impact unexpected to the 2026 budget, about what do you anticipate that to be?
Financially, without benefits, about I would say about 150,000. Actually, I'm sorry, about 170,000 without benefits. Again, we're not sure if they will take benefits or not, but it would be about 170,000. The behavior techs are around 30, and the administrator is around 100, ballparking that. So it will be on.
Yep, that's but appreciate that ballpark. I'll have some follow-up, but I want Lisa to ask her question. I see her hand raised.
Um, so at the elementary level, because I have never been through an IEP process, how long do those take to write? And like, if you can just give an estimate, because it does take a lot of time. And I think that's a part that's missing sometimes. People don't understand.
So we don't have Miss Upton on the meeting. I'm not sure if Dr. Reese is here because he was a special education teacher. And I do not see him on the meeting.
He was here and he went to the other meeting, so I'm trying to reach out to him now and ask him to join us.
It's okay. It's
So
Brad, if you just get back to us and give us like a little
so
synopsis.
I guess I can respond in a manner just because I deal with it personally at home, as that's what my wife does. She's an evaluation team chair in another district, so I can speak to the amount of time that she spends. IEPs themselves to write, once they're actually completed, I would say take a few hours just to write the IEP. It does eventually have to be approved. It does, generally speaking, all three of our special education administrators, I would imagine if they're, again, just looking at what happens in my own home, are working nights and weekends to get those done because they're all timeline sensitive. They all have timelines attached to them, again, that are legally binding. So that takes a considerable amount of time, and the meetings take a considerable amount of time that the administrators have to sit in on. So they actually have to chair the meetings. The meetings are generally 1 to 2 hours, in some cases longer. It really depends on the nature of the meeting and whether or not there are special education advocates or attorneys from both sides in those meetings, but they can certainly take a considerable amount of time. But I would say on average for an IEP meeting, probably about 90 minutes just to run the meeting. Then you have to develop the IEP from there, and then the IEP has to be approved.
And the process involves the teacher specialist within like special education.
So
who does it all involve?
So the team meeting itself is generally the special education administrator, the special education liaison, at least one of the students' teachers, which again at the elementary level is easier because you're getting a comprehensive look at the student because it's self-contained for all subjects. Oftentimes one of the school administrators, school psych, school guidance counselor, and then the family. So it's a team of people that actually sit in on these IEP meetings, which makes it lengthy because everyone gets talking time and you're looking at, again, providing the least restrictive environment for the student. But the meeting itself is time consuming due to the fact of the number of people that are on the meetings. And that's without including if there's an advocate in the meeting, if there are attorneys from the school district and from the family. If generally speaking, if the family brings an attorney, the school district will also bring an attorney in turn. So it's a long process to go from eligibility, team meeting, drawing up the IEP, and getting the IEP approved. So it's very time consuming.
And most of this happens at the elementary level, correct?
So the meetings happen across the district. But I would say at the elementary level, the meetings are probably more time consuming.
but they get developed. So they get developed at the elementary level and carry through, but there's meetings, like reoccurring meetings that happen
Yes.
to update the IEPs. That's
Yes, and I'll let Gary has his hand up, so I'll let where he has some background in it. I'll let him speak to it.
So most of the time, student eligibility determination is made at the elementary level, but there are situations where students are getting referred for testing, either through the family or just based on the student performance or how the student is presenting. So we do have times that students have that initial eligibility determination meeting happening at the middle school. It's less likely to happen at the high school, but it does happen at the high school. But in general, once a student's found eligible, every year there's the annual team meeting, which, as Superintendent Morgan said, can be time consuming. And then every 3 years, they have to do a reevaluation or a re-eligibility determination. And so that's when they go through the entire testing process again.
okay. Thank you.
And we have in the district over, we're approaching 800 students on IEPs. So that's a lot of meetings when you're talking annual reviews, 3-year re-eligibility meetings, that our special education administrators have to be a part of.
Right. And I came in late, so I may have missed it, whether Superintendent Morgan said this, but there was just a recent change in the state regulations, which require the administrator to be at more meetings than they would have had to attend in the past. So this is a new regulation that has come up this year.
Thank you for that feedback. I want to get to Keenan's question too. If you could just kind of pull that in to the budget component. So once the pieces of the staffing are in place, this would be all inclusive, right? So these additional pieces, do they have any additional budget impact, or is that all under that sort of rough order of magnitude that you gave me, Superintendent, of what the district needs to do to kind of right the ship, so to speak? So you'll hire those staff, these tasks will be inclusive of that, so that number that you gave will cover all of these pieces.
So it would roughly cover the pieces minus the potential benefits impact.
Yeah,
And
understood.
And the other piece is, something that we are looking at is potentially the redistribution of some of our programs next year, because the premise had always been we'll house them in Pepperell because the majority of program students are from Pepperell. And at least one of our programs now, that shift has shifted to Townsend. So we may actually be moving one of the programs, which was a large program, to Townsend next year, which will help, balance, the distribution a little bit in the district of these programs. But that would not eliminate the need for the positions that are being added, because they will likely be shared between Pepperell and Townsend.
And then what you're saying longitudinally impact on the budget is once this is in place, the feeling is that more students will come back to the district, which saves the very costly out of district placements. So the impact will be now when you, I want Keenan to ask this question, but be thinking about while he's doing that. For the Q1 budget that we've just gone through, do we have any savings potentially that offset it? And is there any of the outside money that helps us with this process, or will this all impact the allocations that we've been given by the town? So Keenan, go ahead with your question.
Thank you. I always feel like I'm asking the catch-up questions here. Just for context, we need these three to hire these three positions in order to keep up with our current load. What changed from last year to this year to make this necessary? Was it an influx this year of people entering the special education programs, or was it as a result of consolidation from the closure of Ashby? Like where does this necessarily stem from?
So, and I'll let Dr. Reese respond as well. We have had some students come back into the district, which is really great news for the district. But on top of that, something that we're starting to notice is that we are having students move in to the district who have significant needs, and they are currently not on IEPs. So they are having a direct impact on inclusion classrooms in general education settings because the issues that they came to us with were not addressed in their previous district. Go ahead, Dr. Reese.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I think we're just seeing in general in education an increase in students that are demonstrating more complex social, emotional, and behavioral challenges, particularly at the elementary levels. And this is something that it's not just unique to North Middlesex, but we're seeing across the state, and I would bet across the country as well. And some of that I would imagine is related to just post-COVID and just experiences for students and learning. And then from the administrative standpoint, I think, again, the shift in the regulation in terms of who needs to attend the meetings and be part of it, and that put an additional administrative burden that hadn't been in place last year on our administrators to be at more meetings.
Thank you. And just a question for the two behavior techs. Are those FTEs or are they like 0.5s?
They're full-time FTEs.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Mhm.
That's all I had.
Ms. Craven, could you
Dr. Reese, I see your hand is still up. Is that from before? Did you want to add something more? All right, it's gone. So thanks for kind of capturing the why and the budget impact. So, one of our, obviously you're the superintendent, it is your budget to administer the day-to-day as needed. But knowing what the changes are and the impacts is really important for us to understand. So with the needs that you have and the budget allocations that were provided, do you have other resources from grants or the supplemental that is going to help you with that? Or are we going to have to cut back in any other areas? Anything that we need to be aware of globally on the longer term budget impact for this fiscal year?
Nancy, do you want to address a portion of that? I know that as far as this year goes, we do have money within the salary line that's remaining. We're actually in pretty good shape there, but that can change with leave requests, whether it be FMLA or paternity, maternity leaves. But right now we're in pretty good shape overall. Nancy, I don't know if you want to address any of the situation around special education out of district and how that shift is positively impacting the district.
Yes, sure. So yes, I agree. There has been some, again, this was a kind of an unusual year as far as staffing goes with all the changes that happened at the beginning of the year. So right now we feel like we're in pretty decent shape on the salary side. This shouldn't affect any town assessments or anything along those lines. We have had some difficulty in hiring certain staff, and therefore, in the budget we have contracted for those positions. There's quite a few actually. So if in looking at the contracted services lines, you'll see some fairly large increases, and those will have to be offset with staffing costs that we planned originally to hire, but we're unable to. Right now, we periodically check the out of district placement costs, and we are running pretty sort of lower than we were projecting. So that's actually good news on the special education. Those things change obviously over time, so we'll continue to watch that month after month. And if they continue staying where they are at the level they are, that's good news. It'll be good news for this year and potentially good news if we're projecting for next year. So is that, I don't know if there's questions about that or specifics, but it's really just where the placements ended up that drives that.
I did just want to add too that again, this addition is not just to support students but staff as well. And I will say that that it goes beyond providing the least restrictive environment or even instruction. These positions are being put into place first and foremost due to maintain a safe learning environment for our staff and students. That is what is required at this point in time because many of the situations that we're dealing with are behavioral within some of our programs. So we have to make sure, again, that that we're coaching up our staff to the best of our ability with the right person doing that, but also making sure that that staff members or the staff members are able to actively engage with the students as well.
And Mrs. Craven, from a financial standpoint, as you asked earlier, while Ms. Haynes addressed the staffing piece of it, we are pursuing grants to help support the professional development for staff. So as Superintendent Morgan said, this is about building the capacity of our staffs and to provide that safe environment. So we are looking at grants. While they won't help with the staffing piece, they can certainly support us around professional development for staff.
Thank you for that. Very much appreciated. So again, you know, Superintendent, the day-to-day operations and what you need to run the schools under the budget that's been approved, you know, I do 100% defer to you and your expertise there and that of your staff. We just want to make sure from the budgetary perspective that we're, you know, keeping on top of it. Sounds like it's well within the budget allocation, that you're looking for outside resources. So that's really helpful. On the flip side, on the Kina, did you have another question on this topic? Sorry, I just saw your hand.
Yeah, I might as well ask it now. We can address it later if it's more appropriate for the FY27. I just wanted to know that considering that we saw this or we're seeing this change now where we're needing 3 more positions due to what I'm gathering is mostly an influx. Is this something that do we think this is going to turn into a trend where we're going to need to keep expanding the program or?
So I'll try to answer that the best I can. When I first came to the district, I would always try to keep about $250,000 in discretionary funds for special education movement. And the reason I was doing that, we do not do that any longer. So there is very little flexibility. And we don't often realize our flexibility until we're done hiring, you know, based on if teachers retire and come back and we hire new staff at a lower rate. We don't realize that until usually the beginning of the school year. But we usually did have a little bit of money set aside to deal with this. It's something that we always are prepared for, or at least I shouldn't say prepared for. We know it's going to happen because the district itself has a number of foster families, and DCF regularly places students into all 3 towns. And generally speaking, those students are coming to us on an IEP. Or requiring some level of services if they're not on an IEP when they arrive. So just the simple fact that we have a lot of foster families in the district, which DCF places into, generally impacts us every year. So that is something to be aware of. And I just did want to go back. You know, we try to be as careful as we possibly can when adding positions. But speaking for myself, and Dr. Reese can certainly add, right now, we're at a point where one of us is at Varnum almost every day. And that's great that we're there. We're there, we're visible, we're with the kids, we're with the staff. But it is having a significant impact on our ability to do our other jobs or perform our roles that we're required to do. To keep the district moving forward. And it's just not something that we can sustain for the remainder of the school year, just because, you know, I had that issue last year with the high school where it was extremely difficult to balance both. And I feel as though I was able to do it, but it does come at a cost, and we have to make sure that we're able to move the district forward, and we can't do that if we're giving up multiple days a week each to help support a building, which short term we can do it. Long term, it's extremely difficult to move the district forward that way.
Thank you for that. And sorry for the interruption, Kim.
No problem. So on the opposite side of that, for Q1, has there been anything that you had planned on spending that hasn't gone through, any, you know, unexpected things that were not needed that we might need to know of? You just general changes, and if there's not, that's okay.
Anything? I don't have anything, Gary, unless you do.
Okay.
No, nothing specific for this year.
Okay. One of the things that we had talked about a while back was once we got into October and the hirings, which I know is now still changing, if we could try to get a consolidated look at what positions you were able to hire for. Nancy, I know you said some had to get contracted out. If for our next meeting, we could just see that, what that looks like budgetarily, that would be helpful to us. And I know full well you can't predict year to year what positions you're going to be able to fill, what you have to do creatively. But it's just some information that we can look at as we begin to delve into the 2027 and see what, you know, we might need to do in those areas. The other thing that would be helpful, and I know, you know, it's just closing out fully the first Q1, when you have a chance, any updated information, year-to-date budget that we can take a look at would be helpful, so that we can, you know, just see where the things are tracking. And we know that there's so many things that haven't been probably touched yet, you know, because of weather and timing. So anytime we could take a look at that between now and our next meeting would be great. Lisa, you have a question.
I was going to ask when you want this information, Kim, or to distribute it to the whole committee or just the subcommittee. How do you want that?
So I would say we could review in subcommittee first and discuss before it goes to the whole committee. I mean, trying to keep our regular meetings as short as possible, but still get the business done that the full committee has to do. If we start bringing finance committee, subcommittee work to the full committee, you know, kind of putting more on the regular members, on all the members. So I think we need to do the work here first to take a look at it. Just my opinion. Keenan, I don't know if you have any other thoughts, or Lisa, I thought keeping it in the subcommittee, not that they can't look at it, but I don't think we need to bring it topically to the full committee at this point.
Yeah, I think my opinion is pretty clear on how long our full meetings are, or full committee meetings are. So
Yeah.
Yes. All right. And they will have access to the rest of the committee will have access to the information, but first it goes through.
I have no problem with them having access to it, but I think for a discussion point, we need to keep it in the subcommittee.
Sounds good. Thank you, Kim.
Okay, so obviously, looking at the 2026 is important. We're just ending, you know, the Q1 figures on that. So once we start to look at it, we will have a little bit of a clearer picture of what that looks like and how we can compare that to past years. But if no one has anything else on the 2026, I'd like to just take 10 minutes here and start talking about 2027. Superintendent, I see your hand.
Yes, I just wanted to add that something the finance should be aware of is that the policy subcommittee is also looking at establishing policies around the use of reserve funds in the district, but also how E&D is used. So that could, there could be, some potential changes coming from policy as well that just wanted you to be aware of it, that right now we don't have anything really around how some of our reserves are used. And I would say the same goes for E&D with regard to how E&D is used moving forward. I think that, that we all agree that we can't continue using all of our E&D every year because eventually it won't be replenished. So just making the committee aware of that.
Thank you. I guess we'll look forward to seeing that when the policy committee brings it to our attention so that we can discuss that and any implications for sure. So if there's anything else, I would say let's move on to the discussion of 2027. So on that topic, we did receive the letter from the municipalities. That seems like, level funding with a 2.5% increase is the preferred ask. But I also see that there's additional asks from the municipalities to shift. And I'm not sure if that is for future budgets or current budgets that ask is being made. I don't know if you have any additional information on that, Superintendent, what you had sent over, and any input from the town administrators meeting that they called, in which they had invited the chair of a school committee and myself as chair of finance, and Keenan did go in my place. But anything from that meeting for the subcommittee to be aware of, implications on the 2027 budget.
Sure. I can start, and I'll let Nancy fill in as needed. So we did have our meeting on Monday. All three town administrators were there, and very similar to last year. The ask of keeping the assessment at 3%. In looking at it, I would imagine it's going to be very similar to last year. That a 3% assessment would likely be extremely difficult for us to get to that point. It may end up at a situation where it's level funded, not level serviced again, possibly below level funded. I think one of the bigger concerns was that it appears the towns, an estimate, are going to have about $1.2 million to dedicate to education. And if what they're saying about health insurance is true, and that we may have to absorb a 20% increase in health insurance, our estimation is that 1.2 or $1.1 million, whatever it happens to be, again, it is a guess at this point, will basically go to health insurance, and there will not be anything left for anything else. And we are looking at collective bargaining agreements that are already in place. We're looking at transportation. We're looking at really increases across the board, which again is a sign of a flawed formula, as I will continue to say. And that I think the only benefit with this year's budget is that, unlike in years past, it looks like all school districts in the Commonwealth, not just the ones that have been identified by Project 211 or whatever it is at right now. I think it's 238. It looks like all districts are going to be negatively impacted this year, and it's going to be a struggle for everyone. I've just being transparent with this group. We are not at a point where we can reduce any more staff. Our class sizes are already high, and it's going to be a challenge. So we may have to look at reserves and E&D again. We may also have to look at the potential of, and I don't believe we have the ability to do this. It would require, again, more work for us to look into around capacity, but the potential of closing a second building, which was discussed last year, but that process would require us having to look at the grade configurations in the district. change the grade configurations, certainly, and possibly redistrict in some cases. But it would leave us with little to no room for growth at all. It's something that we could probably do for a year. But, you know, there's continued talk of increased housing in Pepperell, which could bring upwards of 60 students to the district, again, across all grade levels. But closing a second school would be something that would be extremely difficult for the district to absorb and to make work. Again, it would leave little to no room for growth at all. But we're not at a point where we can reduce staff again because the class sizes will get to the point where it's unbearable. And as I've said, as I said in the previous meeting, the middle school situation, especially in grades 7 and 8, is already to the point where they cannot possibly have larger class sizes than they already do. And the same can be said for some of our high school classes. Same can be said for some of our K classes in the district. We just cannot keep going down the road of cutting staff. So it's going to be a challenge. And it may require, again, the use of our reserves. And that's something that is recommended against, just because reserves, you know, we always talk, you know, if a roof caves in, that's what that money really needs to be used for. You know, a one-time cost, not an annual, not an annual budget item. So Nancy, do you want to add to that? I just think the 3%, I do understand where the towns are coming from. But a 3% assessment is, correct me if I'm wrong, that's a pretty close to a 0% increase, I would guess, for the school district.
Yeah, it's not quite that bad, hopefully, but some of this depends on, you know, I did include an early revenue projection in the packet, which is, again, it's just a scenario. It's not, we don't have numbers yet for the state. We don't have official numbers on like minimum contributions for the towns. And we haven't made a determination if we're going to use any E&D for the budget. But what was included in the packet is a 3% for a budget increase of 3% for school district, and what that looks like given those assumptions that are in that scenario. So it's just a one pager. We will be, you know, obviously we've been working on the FY27 budget. We're requested our departments submit their budgets before Thanksgiving. So we should have, you know, right now we've really just been rolling over a level funded in most lines. But if there's any changes based on the department's request, we will get those by Thanksgiving, and then have a real draft, official draft. And then at that point, it's kind of a hurry up and wait till the state comes out with the official numbers. Also in the packet is a enrollment projection. That's just our guess of October 1 numbers with an adjustment for choice out students. Again, that is certified by the state in the end of January, so it's not final. Right now, those projections for enrollments look relatively difficult for Townsend because Ashby lost a number of students, not lost, has a lower enrollment. And we did look at that in extensively, or fairly extensively, and the exit of students from grade 12 and it was a larger class going out and a smaller class coming in. So anyway, those impacts, you really can't tell a town by town impact on that until you have the minimum local contributions. So for instance, Ashby has a lower enrollment, but they may have a high minimum local contribution, which would give them a bigger percentage of the pie. So until they actually have that. But this one pager does show that, you know, given those scenarios, if they give us $30 a student for revenue and everything else relatively being equal, using the same amount of E&D we used last year, ends up being about 4.49 for the town. So that's obviously above where they want us to be right now.
I just wanted to add, just to clarify, when I'm talking about a 3% assessment and that being essentially no increase for the school district, that is moving away from E&D. which is the point I think we need to get to, because E&D really should not be being used to run the budget every year. I do think that that is and I will continue to say, I think that that is a dangerous practice to have in place, because you run the risk of not being able to replenish it at the level it was at the previous year, and eventually that money deteriorating. So I just wanted to be clear on that. That would be not using E&D at the level that we have been, in avoiding the use of reserves as well, in operating the budget the way that I think that we need to, moving forward. But obviously, this year may not be possible again. I just wanted to add, I don't know if I mentioned it at the last meeting, but the other thing that we might be dealing with, or we will likely be dealing with, is that 2 years ago, did I talk to this group about the private special education tuitions in the last meeting?
I don't think so.
I can tell you quickly, statewide, there was a 14% increase 2 years ago at private school placements across the state. Now it looks like they are looking to increase anywhere from 12% to upwards of 40% in some of these special education schools. So that is something that the Mass Superintendents Association is paying attention to. I know they are pushing the state to step in, but they are private schools. So I'm not entirely sure that the state is going to be able to do much, but that could certainly have an impact on us and how we use circuit breaker, depending upon the placement of our students in the district, which at times is outside of our purview to have a tremendous amount of choice in that, based on the level of disability student needs. And also, again, when you're dealing with advocates and attorneys on top of it, sometimes that can be very difficult to, send a student to a particular placement over another.
Keenan?
Yeah, so I know we had mentioned, I believe at the last meeting, how, when we're dipping into these one-time funds to fund the budget, I believe it was the school choice fund that, we're burning at a higher contribution rate because, we have a lot less school choice going on right now. In terms of E&D, what I don't know, like what percentage of our budget did we fund from E&D this last year, or maybe just in numbers term, how much did we use from E&D to fund the budget for this year, and how does that compare to our history?
You can take that one, Nancy.
Yeah, so we used, and let me just get it in front of me so I'm looking at it. We did use 1,872,226 last year to support the this current budget year, I should say. And that was 100% of the certified E&D. So it's out of the $67 million budget, 1.872 has been supported. 1,872 is supporting it. So it's not a huge percentage. As far as the history, I have the history available. I'm happy to just send it out to you guys. It's something we update each year. Right now, the E&D for FY20, the results of the FY25 fiscal year, is not certified yet. It's been submitted to the state, and we basically wait our turn for them to review it and issue the certification on it. And we have not. So I don't know what the total percentage of the this next round is going to be, but again, the decision on the revenues that we want to utilize for FY27 is something that will be discussed. I mean, this is a scenario that's in the packet. It's really not the final for sure. And again, I think some of this dovetails to the policy, because they really would like to set a minimum requirement that is left in reserves, or a range that's left in reserves. Just, You know, typically it's like something like 3 to 5% you want in reserve. So that might come up as far as what amount of E&D is used for this next year's budget. As soon as we have the certified number, I'll update the spreadsheet, but I'll send that out to everybody so that you have that as well as the history.
Thank you. And a follow-up to that, like I wasn't here last budget cycle. When it was being discussed what, you know, that we were going to use E&D for this FY26 budget, what was the alternate scenario if we didn't? Was it like option 4, close another building? Like would that have filled in the hole, or would additional staff needed to be eliminated to fill that 1.872 gap if E&D wasn't used?
I mean, Brad, I'm not sure. One of the issues that happened with the FY26 budget process is that the E&D certification came down about 800,000. So the prior year we used 2,600,000 and then we moved to 1,800,000. So it was a instantaneously reduction in revenue.
So I would say,
I think the alternatives weren't really, we were sort of in the midst of the building closures between one building, two buildings. We never finalized, like, if we didn't use this, what would happen? It was just, yes, we are going to use this. So
yeah,
Okay.
and I would only say that if we did not use the money, if we did not have E&D at our disposal, it would have entailed the closure of another building and the reduction of more staff, because the 1.8 million is a substantial amount, and even closing Ashby, all in, was around $1 million between the operational costs and the staffing costs because they were redistributed throughout the district. So closing Squanicook and/or Spalding, that would not have filled a $1.8 million gap. It would have been likely a combination of the closing buildings or closing another building and the reduction of more staff. And that's, in some ways, that's a situation that we could be in this year if things don't improve, or, you know, if we're given the same amount of money from the state again. You know, that we're in a situation where it's going to be a challenge. And right now, you know, certain things are looking good. Our staffing line looks okay. Our out of district line looks good. But those things can all change over the course of the year based on students coming into the district, staff needing to take leaves. You know, those current, you know, black areas that we're dealing with right now in the budget could change between now and June.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Part of your question, Keenan, that I think we didn't really talk about, and that's for FY, we've been carrying a balance of around 450 from school choice and utilizing that for health insurance when we need it. So it was sort of like a buffer. I think we don't bring in 450 anymore. We're bringing in less than that. I want to say it's around 200, 300, depending on the year. My feeling for next year's revenue projection, you can't see it in this particular version, but I think we do have some more, because we have more services being provided. We've had a higher run rate on the Medicaid reimbursement. We've also had higher interest and earnings on our investments. So those two lines, my thought process for FY27 revenue would be to bump those up and reduce the school choice. And that's kind of what you're seeing on the zero carried forward for district, those lines. So it was just a way to slowly wean off of that, so that we're not using more than we are creating. Having said that, we did get that return of the funds from Manitoba. So the school choice money is there, and it's the school committee's decision on how that's utilized. But it's just another conversation regarding revenues to be had about how much of that needs to be utilized and how to avoid it being a one-time use, so we don't go forward with an issue in a couple of years from now.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Lisa.
So Nancy, and I know that we've talked about health insurance going up. Do you or Kevin, could you create a chart that shows like this is run our current numbers of health insurance? And this would be a 10% increase over that, a 15% and 20%, so that people can actually see the impact that health insurance is going to have on us? Since that's one of the big
Actually,
drivers.
yeah, we were working on that actually, I think a little bit yesterday. So
Okay.
timely, yes, that's not a problem.
All
We'll
right.
add that.
'Cause- Yeah, and sometimes a visual so that the public understands what an impact this takes on our
Yeah.
staff.
The other larger, as far as health insurance, not our active employees, but our retiree insurance numbers. So when our teachers retire, they end up in the Group Insurance Commission program, or GIC. And that program at the state levels had some significant deficits. So we're not sure that we wouldn't get, and that's also a large chunk under the benefits section of the budget. We probably should also include that as far as projections on that. So just a guess on my part, but I think that's going to be a significant increase because of those deficits. The supplemental budget last year from the state actually shored up the deficits for FY25, but kind of guessing that they're also, unless they're changing plan design or something else in regards to that program, that their costs there are going to be significant. So yes, we'll put that
Yeah.
together. No problem.
And if you can include the retirees too, that would be great to see that, because if it's going to have an impact, it's good to see it. Thank you.
So I know that we are coming up. We've been on for an hour. I know we had to do a little switching. Special education kind of placements, that is sort of an unknown, out of control for the school. You could have more students coming in, but you're trying to address that with the staff that is ultimately needed right now. In the 2026 budget will carry over to 2027, but longitudinally it helps us because it builds the capacity of the district, meaning fewer out of district placements. Looking at a potential worst case scenario, while not an optimum, I think we do have to have eyes wide open on potential implications of not utilizing another school in the district and consolidation. I don't know if we want to have you start going through that exercise now, as a potential scenario. I think we might need to show that to the community of, sort of an if then. And I know that consolidation would require money just for moves and reconfiguration. So that it's not like it's just a cost savings, there's some cost implications if that were to happen. And that, obviously we don't fully have a good picture until the state gives us some guidance on what they're going to contribute, but we need to be holding to the 2.5%, because 3% doesn't seem like it will be a reality. So that said, looking towards our 2027 seems like it's going to be a really tight year. So I think anything that we can do to look at any little bit of cost savings, because as everyone has pointed out, you've already cut a bunch of staff, really can't go taking staff away at this point. Any other summations, Lisa or Keenan, that we should be adding for the horizon for 2027?
Oh, sorry, I didn't raise my hand. We probably should look at, I know that a facilities review, or how we've done it in the past, Nancy and Brad, just to make sure that the projects are moving forward or not moving forward, that kind of thing, or with Jeremy, just some kind of review in finance that we need to do with that part of the budget as well.
I know Nancy and Kevin were always asking you to produce more documents. I'm so sorry about that. But you know, we'll look at those in between now in our next meeting whenever you have those available. So that is sort of the assessment of staff as it was projected, as it stands now, and the changes that you have to make with the contracting versus the employees, just so we see what that looks like. The year-to-date spend, knowing that there's things that would be happening throughout the year, so that we can't just totally rely on the current spend rate, but just so that we can take a look at that. And then we'll keep marching forward with planning out that 2027 budget. Lisa, just so you can go back up.
Yeah, my question is to Kevin and Nancy. Is there documentation that you think that would be helpful to the committee? Or charts or anything that would be helpful? Because you guys live with it day to day. That would be helpful to the committee and get our story out to the public to what our budget is sitting at. If there's anything like that. I know, Kevin, you're new to it, but maybe you have ideas about new charts too, and Nancy, and so just a thought.
There was, we did have a conversation, Kevin, feel free to jump in if you'd like, about trying to create a different look, a different view. I mean, we have the FY26 detail in there right now as to where it stands today, again, moving all the time, but a view that's sort of a one pager. So top level, maybe it has a, you know, has an original budget, has the prior year's budget, and then the spending to date. And again, show things like salaries, contracted services lines, just a top level view of those types of things all on one page. We haven't generated it yet, but we talked about it. So I don't know if that could be helpful, where it's not, you know, I think it's hard for people to weed through a 26-page, you know, of detail and understand what's happening. So I'm open to considering that. In fact, we could do a draft and try to get that to you so you can see what it would look like for FY26.
Yeah,
Like,
anything like that.
Yep.
That what you guys would think that gets our message and that we can understand and that the public can understand would be helpful. Thank you.
Correct.
Yeah, I've been playing around with two different things. One is a version of what Nancy's talking about. One was even more visually with graphs. I don't love them yet, so they're not anything that I think is super helpful yet. I think they're in process. I'm just kind of, as the months go by, adding to it and seeing how it looks. But it's definitely, like Nancy said, something we've been talking about how we can be a little bit more current with some of this information for people. So we're working on it. But like I said, the things that I've built, I don't love yet, so I wouldn't feel comfortable putting them out.
Thank you.
Understood. All right. So we did move to put the public comment at the end. I do see there's a few people in. Do we have any requests for public comment at this point?
I don't see anyone raising their hand at the
Okay.
panelist side.
All right.
Yeah, and we didn't have anyone who signed up to speak either.
Okay. So then we would need to set our next meeting. Any thoughts on when you would like to meet again?
Pulling up the calendar here. Are we going for 1 month increments here, or like 3 weeks? We did 3 weeks this time. No, I lied. We did 1 month.
The school committee meeting is on the 18th. Did we want to do one? Will there be new information before the 18th? Or a need to meet before the 18th?
Nancy, what's the date the town manager, Pepperell, was asking for their, it's before our school committee meeting. They have a
Okay.
town meeting.
November 3rd is their town meeting.
Yeah. I mean,
Or are you talking about the summit, Brad?
no, I'm talking at the Pepperell's town meeting.
Yeah, that's on the 3rd next
Okay.
week.
Yeah, I think I believe, and just correct me if I'm wrong, Brad, I think they were considering like some kind of a revenue projection for the school district. Or I think, or a 5-year projection, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
We have a 5-year projection. It's just the issues around the 5-year projection are that use of E&D and other revenues, certainly the state we can make an assumption on. Some of the lines we can make assumptions on, but that's really a school committee's decision. So I don't want to release something without, I mean, maybe that's a conversation we have at the next meeting. Do we release an estimate on that, or is there, because I know there's definitely conversations happening, especially in policy related to how we're going to utilize those funds. So and I don't want to have it be, Nancy said this is how much E&D we should use. It really should be a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if we can get the policy committee to provide us with the policy so that we can see any budgetary impacts, that would be helpful. I don't know, Lisa, if that will be ready for us at the next meeting. I believe, and don't quote me, but I believe the 19th is Wednesday, the 19th. The joint committee between Townsend Board of Selectmen and Townsend FinCom, so that might give us a little bit of information on what they're thinking. I would say we could meet the next week. However, the next week is Thanksgiving. Do you want to try to meet the week after Thanksgiving? That would give us time from our school
I
committee
think that
meeting.
makes sense.
Yeah, we would be able to look at any of the tapes from the town meetings, give Nancy and Kevin more time to work on their pieces. Nancy, that would give us time to review the 5-year projections, be ready to discuss it at the next meeting, and see, because you said you don't want to release something prematurely. Once it is in draft form, though, it would be releasable to the community. So just make sure that it's really stamped working draft, so that if there's a FOIA, that nobody thinks that that's a final document in any way.
Do we want to aim for a Monday or a Tuesday? Monday's coming right off the holiday, so maybe Tuesday,
Yeah.
the
Mhm.
2nd, December 2nd.
And I'm going to work backwards from your schedule.
Yeah,
If-
so I'm looking at my calendar.
If we could do Monday, that would be great. The 2nd and the 3rd are difficult because we're doing school visits on those days, and on the 4th, I have both collaborative meetings in the morning.
Are you looking at December, Brad? Or are
December
you
1st,
looking
yeah,
December 1st?
yes.
Monday, December 1st. At 8:30, the same time. I can make that work.
I can as well. Lisa, does that work for you?
That's okay with me.
I think it works for me, but I don't know for sure, but schedule it. I might be on an airplane. I don't know when my flight
Oh,
necessarily.
coming back.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that does bring us another point. I believe it's November 8th that the Pepperell person will be appointed.
November 5th.
November 5th. Okay, thank you. Yes, the 8th is a Saturday, so I'm not sure I said that. That when we get up to full strength on the school committee, that maybe we'll have someone else join our committee, because we did have departures.
Yeah.
So
So by the 18th, on the 18th, it is on the agenda already that we will elect people to the committee.
Yeah.
Or I will take another round of committee appointments, subcommittee appointments.
And so we will meet on that day. If you could let us know earliest, Lisa.
I will.
If we have to shift, because the only other option would be that Friday before the Thanksgiving break, early.
I would just go ahead and schedule it now. Just schedule December 1st and
Okay. All right. Well, once again, I appreciate everyone from the administration keeping us informed, up to date, talking about these things, really in real time as they're happening for you, so that we can help with as much as we can. We don't have a magic bucket of money, but to try to be there to help you work through these things as you do the best for the kids in the district. So appreciate you taking the time and walking us through some of these things. Look forward to the additional information that you'll be providing. So if we
Thank
don't
you.
have anything else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And I'll second it.
Roll call: Lisa Martin,
Yes.
Keenan Francois,
Yes.
and Kim Craven, yes.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
thanks.
you.
All right, take care. Bye.